Hey, it's Ryan Barton-Grimley. I'm the director of Elijah's Ashes. I'm also the co-writer, co-producer, and I'm the co-lead actor. And you are watching Mr. Media.
I'm Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview. You can see, hear, and read more than 1,000 of my previous celebrity interviews at mrmedia.com. That's mrmedia.com. Subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Apple News, Mixcloud, Spreaker, TuneIn, Google Play, or Stitcher, and follow me on Twitter or Facebook. On today's show, I'll talk to Ryan Barton-Grimley, filmmaker and co-star of the new indie film comedy Elijah's Ashes. Stick around. If you only see one madcap road comedy about stepbrothers this year, and you've already seen the one Will Ferrell made a decade ago with John C. Reilly, check out Elijah's Ashes, starring Ari Schneider and my guest today, Ryan Barton-Grimley. Elijah's Ashes has everything you could ask for in an indie comedy, including a possible suicidal dad, a straight brother and a gay brother who hate each other, the straight brother having gay sex, the gay brother nearly having straight sex, a possible act of necrophilia. Oh, and a prison short bus. What else could you want? Barton-Grimley, who wrote and directed Elijah's Ashes, in addition to co-starring as the straight, obnoxious, homophobic brother, has put together a funny, not very PC movie that won't be everybody's cup of green tea. But I sure liked it. This is Barton-Grimley's second visit to Mr. Media. The first was to talk about his first film, the home invasion thriller, The Truth, which starred John Hurd, Brendan Sexton III, and Daniel Baldwin. Ryan Barton-Grimley, welcome back to Mr. Media.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Good to see you. I hear that comedy is harder than drama. Did you find that to be the case?
It's harder to make it decent, but it's a lot more fun to do. Yeah. It's pretty tough. You got to worry about more than just playing stuff believably and truthfully. It's a little more manipulative, for sure. But God, it was so much fun to make it. I gotta say, so much more fun.
Well, I mean, when you made The Truth, this thriller, of course, you can stay on people a little bit longer to build the tension. But
Right.
it seemed to me with a comedy that timing.
Oh yeah.
It's all about timing. See, I was trying
It's
to
all about
screw
timing.
with the timing.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. All about timing. So it's, I mean, you got to stay ahead of the audience, otherwise you're just dead. You're just dead in the water. And I mean, so it's like an 85-minute feature from a 110-page script, which is just, that would have been a 110-minute drama, right? Maybe slightly longer, even if you're milking some of those moments and really trying to tug on the heartstrings. And in this case, we have a few moments like that for sure, and we tried to really kind of frame them and accentuate them so that they hit hard, and we were trying to get people to feel something. But at the end of the day, to get through a lot of those jokes, to really make them hit, and to keep that kind of humor rolling, you've got to really maintain that pace and push through it. And it feels very unnatural for the actors who performed in it to see it. Although the ones who have performed live as improvisers and stuff, which quite a few had, are more used to that, where once you get a laugh, you got to double down on that stuff, and you got to keep that thing rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just weird to do it without a live audience, because you're sort of trusting that, I find this funny, this very beginning thing, and I think the second thing is a second beat of that same joke, which I also find funny. So I just gotta hope there's a laugh there, and then double down on that timing, and then let that kind of catharsis bit have a little more room to breathe. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting thing to edit. It was very, very different. It was very cool.
I thought the kind of the epitome of that was the scene with Ari as Lawrence, your character's brother.
Yeah.
he's in his little rental car, and he just has this absolute breakdown. And
Yeah.
he's just rocking the car from inside, and he's bouncing back and forth, and he's hitting the steering wheel, and he's going back and forth, and he's, doing all this. And it seemed to me that would, and thinking that was one continuous shot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When you're from the side, that was all continuous. And
Totally.
that's where I was thinking about timing, because you had to know exactly when to start and when to cut away, so that it didn't become like, oh, we stayed with it too long. But I mean, it was funny, and it was just like, how long can he milk it, and how long are you as the director going to stay with it?
And additionally, the shot right after, what do we go to there? Because we filmed him getting out of the car, we filmed him pulling himself together, picking the urn up, going to the windshield. We filmed all of that, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, like staying ahead of the audience with that kind of jump cut, because it was really funny to see this Ari's tall. He's really tall, and that's a very small car. And seeing him kind of gangly in there, we were just absolutely dying. The sound guy was like, "Shut up, man! You got to shut up." It was so funny, but getting that kind of the car to rock just enough. And then cutting right to this very pathetic, sad beat of him shoveling the stuff in there was just, it just killed me. It was so funny when we figured that out. And it was such a debate in my mind and with people who saw the rough cuts, like, oh, but we got to see him pull himself together. And I was like, do we? I don't know. I don't think we do. Like, that's not funny to me. What's funny to me is see him freak out and then just accept his shame. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I like that. And so I wondered, because I couldn't really tell from your credits, do you have a lot of experience with comedy?
I haven't made any other features that way. I did write a horror comedy with Ari before we made Elijah's Ashes. That was a much bigger film we were trying to get made through the studios after The Truth. So it was like a Breakfast Club meets Zombieland kind of teen high school horror comedy, but not a cheesy one, like more of an 80s kind of styled one. But again, we had a really tough time getting into the studio system, even though we live in LA. It's just brutal. So I started doing a lot of improvisation to kind of get back into performing and working with actors, because when you're a writer director, you really get trapped kind of in your office and trapped in your head. And I was trying to get out of my head. I was an actor for years and years and did stuff, but through doing the improvisation, Ari was really the one who encouraged me to do it. He had already gone through Second City and was part of their kind of company here in LA. And so I started doing the Upright Citizens Brigade as a different thing. We started performing as a two-man team just for fun. This amazing group called Double Pistols. So it was the two of us, and we basically would do a two-man show that was about a half hour. We would pick some kind of suggestion of a crime from the audience, and then we would just build the world out from there. So we would try to do like the snapshot of what the murder scene looked like and build out from there. As many characters and police and plot twists as we could do, and we would both play all the characters without any sort of rhyme or reason. It was a very, very fun, creative experience, and made us very, very comfortable working with each other. And after Elijah's Ashes, we've since made a horror comedy called Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers that's in post, where we play opposite each other, kind of more of a comedic vibe. But so most of the cast in Elijah's Ashes is from the world of indie comedy and improv here in LA, which is just an amazing community of people who are a little different than your traditional actor in that they're not as concerned with they're not concerned with the same things. They're still concerned with truthfulness and performance, and ironically, not very concerned with being funny. Actually, more concerned with the truthfulness aspect of it and hoping that that plays as funny. A lot of them aren't that concerned about looking like actors, which really gave us, I felt, a more realistic feel of the movie. Like everybody kind of looked and felt like a normal person as opposed to, you know, like a pinup or something like that. I mean, except for me and Ari, of course. You know, I'm just kidding. But that was really helpful. So one of the ways we shot was using DSLR cameras, and we used 3 of them, which was kind of insane. But we, since everybody was used to kind of working with each other and rolling with the punches because they're improvisers, no one was ever off camera. So what I would do is I would storyboard 3 angles. We would set those up, kind of do the blocking, and then we would go for it. And we would have this scene. We would have some close-ups and some kind of interesting master, and no one was ever off camera. So it created this immediacy for all the performers that was really fun, but extremely fast. I mean, there are some scenes, you know, we did 4 takes, and that was it. I mean, we had 12 angles, but
isn't that essentially TV, 3-camera, you know, comedy shooting, right?
Right. And really the fight was to also try to make it not feel too stagey as well. I mean, we still kind of did this weird formalist kind of flat feel, almost like Amelie or a Wes Anderson thing, but a kind of a low budget version of it to try to kind of emphasize kind of some widescreen cinematic comedic thing, you know, but it was a fight not to get it to feel like a sitcom and still retain that kind of indie feel of like an Alexander Payne movie like Sideways or About Schmidt, but still get that kind of 3-camera feel with the immediacy of the work. It was,
With as we're recording this, Curb Your Enthusiasm has returned this week after 6 years, right? And I was reading an interview with one of the producers, and he said that into the first season, maybe at the end of the first season, they realized it had been a mistake to only use 1 camera. And that what they did after that was to permanently put a camera on Larry. So every take was they always had whatever Larry did, because it was you know, he could never quite, you know, repeat it exactly, and that way they always had Larry, and then they just focused on their master shots and the reaction shots with the other actors. But Larry, they always had. So I thought it was interesting, you know, because most of these shows now, you don't find that many 3-camera comedies anymore. They're live, whatever. So a lot of them have gone to the 1-camera handheld, even, which is, you know, The Office, I think, was one of the first to do that a lot, and they do it on Modern Family, and they did it on Curb. But yet with Curb, they always have that second camera running the whole time, which I thought was just kind of interesting. So I don't know where I'm going with that relative to what you're talking about.
We did that too because we thought that a lot, like once Lawrence was in his hometown and dealing with Kevin, and then on the road with Kevin, one of the things we wanted to do, so it wasn't just the Kevin Shaw show. We wanted it to be the Lawrence reaction show, because in order to kind of frame all the stuff that Kevin was doing, so that it didn't just seem like this, you know, this diatribe of stupidity and homophobia, like to frame that in context so that you understood as an audience, oh, this is meant to be absurd. This guy's a fucking idiot. Like, excuse me, that guy's an idiot. Yeah. Like, I get where okay. So the world, in order to make it Lawrence's world that Kevin is then existing in, we really, that was one of the first things, like I kept saying to our DP, Sean Ayers, I said, how do we just get all these reaction shots of Lawrence to Kevin? Because, you know, I don't know if I will be doing the same thing every take. I probably won't. And he said, well, you just need to get a second camera. And I went, oh, okay. And I said, well, how can we kind of get the whole thing so we have this kind of wide master like Woody Allen would do or something like that? And he said, well, then you get a third camera. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is a simple thing. It just didn't occur to me. He's like, yeah, you just get 3 cameras, right?
Well, there's that whole thing about, oh, we only use 1 camera. We're in film. But the reality is, if you're low budget, if you're an indie filmmaker, you got to shoot quickly, right? And you got to get it the first or second or the third time, and you got to move on. You don't have, we
had 13 days of audio, and we had, I don't know, probably 3 days of MOS, some driving and me tripping on my face that didn't make it in the movie. So, yeah. You got to be fast. So like some of those diner scenes, that was a location we did not have money for. So they said, hey, if you buy all your lunch here, you can shoot here, but you have to do it between this time and that time. So we had those 3 cameras. We did some of those scenes 3 to 4 times, and that was it. We were done. We were not going back there. We are not doing that scene again. We have to live with it. It also created an immediacy like you do have when you shoot on film, and that you don't get another chance as an actor. So you make it work. Make it happen.
So that actually was a diner. I wasn't entirely convinced, because all we see is you guys at the table.
At that really weird Rocky Mountain thing.
Yeah. I thought maybe it's just a wall in somebody's house or something. It didn't necessarily have to be a diner.
It weirdly so we shot in the Central Coast of California. There's not a lot of movies shot up there, but Aaron Brockovich did shoot around there, which is weird, in Ventura, California, and they shot at that diner. And their day rate that they paid was more than we made the entire movie for. So, so they were open to people shooting there, and I knew that. And I talked to them about it, and they were like, "Well, how much money do you have?" And I was like, "We don't have any money, but we definitely need to feed our cast of people and crew here, and it would be most convenient to do it here." So they said, "Well, we never use this catering room back here. This is like our overflow on the weekends. And it has this great glass Rocky Mountain mural." So I was like, sold. Let's do it. And we used the parking lot, and that was all the same place.
So okay, I was going to ask it. So we're getting probably a little too inside baseball here for most people, but it was the parking lot in front, because that was another thing. The shot of the car pulling in. Yeah. The kind of strip mall look behind it didn't have any business signs on it, and I thought maybe it's not an active kind of strip center. It's just they just found a place, and it was so nondescript.
It was very active. I was cutting around people. Oh yeah. And it's so funny because in LA when someone sees a production, they go out of their way to just not look. They just avoid it like the plague, But there, people were like, "Huh? What's going on over there?" And especially when I was getting my ass kicked on the ground by those 2 characters. People were stopping kind of in the street, like, "Jesus Christ, do you need help? Are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, it's the camera." I was like, "Keep driving. We have to get this. It's going to start raining." It was such an indie film moment, Bob. It was so silly,
Well, and you used the same diner early on and then late at the end, too. And
yeah.
Got to save a little money there, too. You didn't have to use it.
Absolutely. We figured we go to the same place and just keep it, structure and a lack of choices are such a great thing with creativity, because then you can say, well, this is all we have. Now let's make the best of this. How do we make the best of this? How can we make the most creative thing in there? And the funniest thing, like, what would be the worst thing Kevin could say right now after he's got his ass kicked and had sex with a trans sex worker? What is the worst thing he could say to his brother here? Let's see if we can go there and explore what that feels like. And that's what we did,
I do have to say that I think if Kevin had been at that diner one more time, I think he might have gotten her phone number.
I agree. I feel like in a sequel they might be together-ish, maybe. Like she would feel bad about it, but she
Pickens must be very slim in that town, is what I figured.
yeah.
If after the first round, when we saw them a second time, she actually seemed almost sympathetic to Kevin.
Yeah,
Almost.
she almost. Oh my God, so funny.
So how did you? I mean, the big theme, of course, to this film is it's the stepbrothers. It's Kevin attacking Lawrence, Ari's role for being gay, and there's constant references to man on man sex, and
Yeah.
just why for your first comedy, why go there exactly?
It's funny. So we had. There was an earlier version of this script where Lawrence is not gay, and he's just kind of he's more of like an elitist kind of liberal snob who goes back to his small town, and I always felt like it didn't have anything really to say, personally. And then I went home on a 4th of July weekend, and after living in LA for years and years, to the Central Coast, and I went to this kind of fraternal organization's barbecue, and I just was struck by how incredibly overtly homophobic the men were around me, and I just could not believe it. I'm not gay. I have lots of gay friends. After living in LA, it's not really that's not really a thing people, really notice or care about or anything. And but I just was amazed at the amount of it. It just struck me, and I was like, this is. I mean, these people they haven't seen me for years. They have no idea what life I live. They don't know if I have a wife or a husband, or they're just assuming that because I'm from here, that I'm just like them. And it was kind of astounding to me, the difference in what I usually experienced and this. And I wanted to kind of explore that. I didn't want to really make a coming of age gay movie. I wanted to more explore the absurdity of homophobia, really, from a character that was an amalgamation of people that I grew up around and went to high school with, and then was reconfronted by, and this kind of weird macho thing, and that kind of was the genesis. And when I applied that to Kevin, I realized, I was like, oh, okay, this is all working. And I also then I started to realize thematically it could be more important than just a comedy. I was like, well, wait a second. So this world, the real world, is very gay. You know what I mean? Like Lawrence is out, he's living his life, not even gay enough for his boyfriend, to be fair. In the beginning of the movie, he's not. And he's, kind of defies stereotype, and is just like most people I know, he's just living his life, right? And his sexuality is just sort of just an afterthought kind of thing, a blip on who he is. It's his, it's just who he is. So, and that's kind of how I felt about, life and being straight, and most of the gay people I know were like that. So the world I wanted to portray was like that, which I think is actually the world. Kevin, this homophobic character, much like some of these people I rediscovered from earlier times in my life, were just unaware of it. And like they were just sort of closed off and stuck in this bubble of stupidity. Now in retrospect, I see now this could be, kind of expanded into the full political spectrum, but at the time when we made the movie, that wasn't really part of the thing. Interestingly, right when we made the movie, it became the whole, there was the Supreme Court case regarding equality of marriage, and that happened, and we were like, oh shit, man, this is now going to be a dated movie. Like we kind of did this, like, and I kept thinking to myself, I said, no, these people exist regardless, and I want to make fun of them.
Yeah.
And then I realized that actually the Supreme Court decision probably doubled down on their homophobia and consolidated their lack of understanding for other people. And I just really wanted to kind of make fun of that stupidity and take it to the absurdity that I believe it is, and that I saw that day. Because at the end of the day, that I think frames it in a way that anybody can see it and go, oh God, that is really stupid. Like, what is that person doing? What is that belief they have? That is so dumb. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with it. I wasn't necessarily trying to make like a political statement. I just was really obsessive about exploring the absurdist kind of comedic aspects of homophobia, and then in retrospect, it kind of became this other thing, which really made us stand out on the film festival circuit. I got a lot of wonderful emails from gay film festival programmers who were like, "We love your movie, man, but your movie is beyond what we're ready to play." We're still playing coming of age movies and stuff like that. But we love your movie. Keep doing what you're doing. You framed it awesome. And, you're on the right side of the stuff here, which was a real paranoia I had once we made the movie. I kept asking friends who, were not straight, like, what is, I know it reads like this, but it's going to look like this and feel like this and this tone. I mean, how does that work out? Some of the actors on the film were gay, some were straight, and they were like, no, this is perfect. And then the vindication, and Ari and I both really felt this when we played the Alexander Valley Film Festival in wine country here in California, and their theme last year was LGBTQ, and we were the only comedy available in the entire film festival circuit. So we got invited and we played twice. We were the only film that played twice. There were some amazing movies that played there. They were mostly coming of age movies about sexuality. Ours was not. And we played to packed houses. It's a very strong and vibrant gay community there. And people were coming up to us after the screening. A couple guys were crying. It was kind of crazy. And they were like, man, you have no idea the life I have lived. I've been Lawrence my whole life. I've never fit into one thing or the other, and I have a Kevin, and he's still torturing me. And it was just, we really, I don't know, we tapped into this weird kind of post coming out, post assimilation thing where people were still trying to make sense of coming together and acceptance on both sides. And I don't know, it was an interesting thing. And anyway, I provided a lot of fodder for comedy, I thought.
Well, it was interesting too that Kevin, who's the homophobic brother played by you, Kevin can't pick up anybody. Kevin's got, he can't, none of the women are interested in him. And then of course, he finally succeeds with someone, and that goes south. But what's bizarre is that Lawrence, who at the start of the film seems sort of comfortable with his homosexuality, even if his boyfriend isn't, but he's getting hit on throughout the movie by everybody. I mean, men, women, and it's kind of a subtle thing. It's like, and then, there is a scene with this woman, and you're convinced that maybe he's going to go through with it. And then I don't want to, well, I guess I gave away that he doesn't quite go through with it. But, it's really interesting. It's like this whole aspect of it that, maybe he's not entirely gay, or maybe he's bi, or maybe he's just one of those guys who's very lucky.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really wanted to kind of emphasize again how gay the world was. And you know, a lot of the gay men that I worked with, um, you know, we would be doing some kind of work thing, and they would be like, "Oh man, I can't believe that guy just hit on me," and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea.
Yeah, right.
No concept of it actually happening or taking place, and I wanted to really kind of capture the fact that there was kind of a perceived reality that Kevin had that was a layer maybe lower, that didn't perceive all this other stuff happening. And it wasn't just in the fact that Lawrence, you know, had sex readily available to him, but also that, you know, he didn't get a lot of humor, he didn't get a lot of social cues or any of these things, you know. And I thought it was a great thing to kind of emphasize some you know, miscommunication and stuff for comedy, but also regarding the character of Sam, so wonderfully played by Tony Charlene, who is an amazing improviser and a teacher at Upright Citizens Brigade. She's a fantastic actress. We were so lucky to have her. So the concept of that was to have, you know, them being like two lost kind of ships in the night passing each other, and to also explore this idea of regression that I had heard a couple gay friends of mine talk about when they, you know, if they grew up in a more conservative town where the expectations of the life they were expected to live was very different than the one that they live now. And in some cases, when they would go back to, you know, kind of visit and stuff, those feelings and those expectations of what they were supposed to do in this box they were supposed to fit in kind of would become overwhelming. And I wanted to see Lawrence kind of struggle with that and kind of play with all sides of the spectrum of the sexuality and kind of just explore that. And I loved how she, you know, knew that and was still okay with trying to hit on him and go through with it, and then it, you know, was a little miffed that he wouldn't do it, and I just liked kind of all the gray area of all of that. Really, I don't know, I really felt like that was a more realistic way to kind of show it and explore it.
And you get the sense that he could have had a one night stand with any man and wouldn't have thought twice about it. But with this woman, he's like, well, you know, you're geographically into, and I know he's making excuses, and I'm sorry, I don't want to give away too much, but it was kind of like, okay, you know, I see what's going on.
Well, he was trying to be nice, like he was trying to let her down, you know, and it was like, well, you know, and he's just like, I'm not even into the parts that you have. Like, you know?
Yes.
I just,
I've been lying here in bed with you, pretending you're a man. I'm just, you know, and then it came to a certain point where I realized I couldn't pretend that anymore. So, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about Ari Schneider, who I think most people he'll be kind of new to them, but seems very comfortable on screen. How do you guys meet?
So Ari and we're brother-in-laws.
Oh, you actually are?
Yeah, he's my brother-in-law.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we he played a smaller role in The Truth as a cop. He you know, he's my wife's younger brother, and we didn't really know of each other when my wife and I first got together, just because he was going to theater school in England at the Guildford School of Acting, and then when he moved back here, he was going to Second City. We kind of became friends, and you know, we're already sort of family. So we started working together in different capacities. We made a lot of short content. We made a bunch of commercials and web series and all this kind of stuff after I made The Truth, and then I mean, he just felt so perfectly natural to play that role, and we had already been very comfortable working with each other on stage. And so I just felt, and so he was not really used to being the lead. He was more used to kind of being like a satellite, bigger, bombastic character like Kevin. And so this was a really big stretch for him to kind of mold himself into this kind of, repressed, hyper realistic, kind of judgmental guy who is closed off to the world. And he's a really great actor. And I mean, I try to put him in every single thing I come in contact with. I made another film, Repatriation, of which I'm the lead in, but when we did Pickups, we knew we were going to do Pickups at one point in time, and we're like, we want a scene where this character is confronted by somebody who's kind of funny but edgy, and so he immediately was the guy for that. And he's always in some capacity. Like he was also very, very instrumental in the score of Elijah's Ashes, which is a pretty different, creative, feeling score. A good friend of his that he grew up with, Robbie Elfman, is a composer, and they kind of came up with the theme together. And then I'm sort of musically uninclined, I would say, in almost every way, which is bizarre because I have a good ear for dialogue, but music just escapes me. I know what I like and what's good, but I have no tools to articulate that. And he, at one point in time, wanted to become a composer, so he really took that on, and I think the score is amazing as well. Yeah, good actor.
Well, as we kind of wind down, you mentioned to me before we went live with the interview that you were bringing back your first movie, The Truth, for a 10th anniversary.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So I made The Truth at the end of 2008. It took us a couple years to get it finished and get it out there. John Hurd, recently deceased, rest in peace, John. Wonderful character actor. He's taught me so much on my first film. And also one of his first big films that he made, Cutter's Way, was filmed in Santa Barbara, where I grew up. With Jeff Bridges, he made that. A very young, great Jeff Bridges. Wonderful movie. And I just, I feel like that film never got its due. It came out right when the big economic crash happened, and most of the distributors who were going to release it when we were in the pre-production phase went out of business. It came out on Gravitas. We were one of their first, I think, 25 films. Gravitas Ventures, which is now this massive, digital distributor. And we're in the very early kind of infant stages of digital distribution, and we were in DVD. We got wrapped up in the Blockbuster, Chapter 11, and the film just, I felt like it never got it to its full reach. Like, it didn't get to the audience that I wanted it to get. So my plan has been for a while to re-release a director's cut, kind of re-expose people to all those actors. Brendan Sexton, who is the lead, plays Gabriel, just a fantastic actor who I wish I saw more out there. And, I wanted to kind of see what kind of different score I could do with it, and I'd always wanted to play with the timeline of events in it a little more like Memento, and so I'm going to re-release something like that this spring, and I'm very excited to do that along with some of the other films that we're releasing here in the next couple months. So it should be really cool. I hope it can kind of ride on the backs of Elijah's Ashes and my other film, Repatriation, and kind of, tap into this new kind of indie audience that's really out there now and very strong as a result of digital. And I
tell you. So where can people find Elijah's Ashes?
Okay, yeah. So Elijah'sAshes.com. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. We are going to be. We're releasing October 17th. It's October 2nd right now. DVD is available for pre-order on Amazon. We're going to be on iTunes, Amazon Video on Demand, Google Play, and I believe Xbox and Hoopla as well, which is the Hoopla is this amazing service that plays in every public library. So if you have a library card, you can go see the movie for free there. You can rent it for 24 hours, and you can get a hard DVD. It's amazing with just your library card. And additionally, we are going to play theatrically, which for a movie of our size is just incredible. So we're playing 1 week here in Hollywood at Arena Cine Lounge. We're going to have the premiere on October 13th. And if you are connected to LA Weekly, which is a weekly website and newspaper here, look out for a contest because you can win a couple tickets and possibly even a walk-on role in one of my next movies.
Cool.
You win, which would be amazing. So, I'm excited to see if people connect to the movie. We played 34 festivals. We won a lot of awards out there: Best Comedy, Best Actor, Best Co-Actor, Best Director, Best Writer. And now we're hoping, people connect with it in the general audience. So, thanks to people like you, Bob, it's amazing to have an opportunity to talk about it. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's easy when it's a good movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you. Did you cry at the end? Did you feel something when you hear Elijah's voice?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I was...
It's tough. It's tough. We were trying to get this kind of heartfelt moment right at the end after this bombastic comedy to bring it back to have this kind of, I don't know, coming together moment. That's an interesting thing to see with a live audience. Because they're laughing their ass off, and it just gets really
right at the end.
silent, and you're like, "Oh God, this is going to be a really weird Q&A now."
Oh man!
But
well, listen. All right, so Elijah'sAshes.com. People can go there, and everything that'll lead them to everything they need to know.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ryan Barton-Grimley. Great to see you again. Congratulations on the film, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Media, today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mr. Media. Check out Elijah's Ashes. Appreciate it.
Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of men who can say whatever they like about their brothers and stepbrothers, but you can't. In the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Hi, this is Rich Scheidner. And if you've ever wondered what it was like to be a stand-up comedian in the 1980s, I'm going to do you a big favor. Instead of billions of dollars for a time machine, you can just spend $24.95 and buy my new book, Kicking Through the Ashes, My Life as a Stand-Up in the 1980s Comedy Boom. It will save you money and give you thrills. It will take you there. Go to my website, richscheidner.com, go to amazon.com, and buy this book.